Thank you. We have 5 of our 7 members here. Is Sue on the phone?
Yes, she is.
Okay, we have 6 of our 7. Okay, first thing we need to do is approve the minutes from January 11th meeting. Everybody have a chance to read the minutes from last month? If you have no additions or corrections, I'd entertain a motion to approve them.
I'll make a motion to approve January 11th minutes.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the January 11th minutes. Do I hear a second?
I second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Can you hear Sue?
Yes, but I can't vote since I wasn't there.
Okay.
Okay. We're going to change the order just a little bit today, tonight, simply because we have one of our new business requests is wanting a continuance. Would you like to, did you have something on that?
Yes, the second item under new business is requesting in order to allow them to speak with owners. So they will be back on the agenda for March 8th. That is the D.R. Horton Miles Farm property.
Right. So gentlemen, I would entertain a motion to allow that continuance till next month on March 8th.
Mr. President, I move we continue the request to rezone the property, D.R. Horton Miles Farm property, till next month.
Okay, we have a motion to allow that continuance. Do I hear a second?
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Barry, roll call, please.
Mr. Gerald.
Aye.
Mr. Harvey.
Aye.
Mr. Thompson.
Aye.
I forgot their name, I'm sorry.
That's all right. Jill Howard.
Miss Howard.
Aye.
I vote aye as well.
Okay, Gary.
It comes with a seat.
I understand.
All 5 voted yes for that, so that is continued to next month. Now we'll go back to old business.
Thompson?
Yes.
Let's see if Sue voted on that.
Oh.
Sue, did you vote on that motion?
Yes, I voted in favor of the continuance.
All right, thank you.
It's hard to remember when nobody's here to see them.
I know.
Sorry, Sue. Under old business, public hearing, site plan review, Hawkeye Storage, Outlot 3, Gale at the Crossing 2, located at the northeast corner of East Main Street and County Road 300 East, 4.31 acres.
First or me? You go first or me?
Actually, let me just give a brief description. This project was continued from last month. What it is self-storage units. It's located at the northwest corner of County Road 300 East and Main Street. And I will introduce to you Dale Cruz with Cruz Consulting.
Thanks, Lisa. For the record, I'm Dale Cruz, Cruz Consulting, 7384 Business Center Drive in Avon, and I'm here this evening on behalf of Dwayne Lane, who owns this property at the corner of 300 East and Main Street. Dwayne proposes to build 9 self-storage buildings on this property. You'll have a site plan that you in the packet that so I mean I have some I can hand out, but do you have site plans you can look at? So they're 9 individual buildings. The buildings that back up to Gale at the Crossing only have doors on the inside of the project, so there are not doors that face to the outside. There's drive aisles in the middle.
There we go.
Yeah, there we go. That's good. It's kind of upside down, but that's okay. So, yeah, there you go. There, that's good. All right, so here's Main Street, and here's 300 East. And that's not the right street name, but these are the two roads that are in Gale at the crossing. One that comes in off of 300 and the one that comes in off of Main Street where the medical office building is right here. And then there's a detention pond that's in Gale at the crossing right here, and then there's no little small detention pond up here. And these are the 9 buildings here that Dwayne proposes to build. The entrance would come in off of this, the road that comes in off of East Main. And it would be the only way in. There'd be one gate here for security to just have one entrance gate right here. The fire department asked us to install a man gate up here in case there was a fire because of the fire hydrant that's right there. So they asked us to install a man gate in the fence that they could open to pull hoses through if they needed to. So we're going to do that. But that would be this would be the only vehicular access would be down here. These buildings here, these 3, kind of 4, I guess. This is a little building. They're connected. But this face of the building, this face of the building, and this face of the building would not have doors on them. The doors would all face to these interior drive aisles right here. So there's a drive aisle here, and then 2 drive aisles here for circulation, and then a drive aisle here, and then one building right here that faces to the outside, faces 300. This one does have doors that face out towards 300. And these would also have doors that face outward towards 300 and Main Street. So in the case summary, so the property is zoned appropriately for this use. And as far as utilities go, this project won't require sanitary sewer. There is a sanitary sewer manhole that's right there that'll have to be adjusted to grade because it's a little too low. So we'll fix that whenever we're doing the grading for the drives. We don't require city water either, but there is city water here on both sides. There's a fire hydrant here that we get to relocate because it's in the middle of the driveway. And then there's a fire hydrant right there also. We're not building any public streets. Drainage all goes to this detention pond right here that was built years ago when Gale at the Crossing was constructed. All this drainage will go into that pond. As far as the landscaping requirements go, we did turn in a landscaping plan for staff to review. And the second comment on the landscaping plan is that asked that we would add some landscaping along these buildings that face out towards 300 and Main Street. And I'd say that we can work with Lisa to, I don't know exactly what she's thinking, but we can work through with Lisa what Dwayne's willing to add some landscaping there. We'll just have to work through with Lisa what she's looking for there. It would be above and beyond what the ordinance requires. But he would do some here because there's room. There would be room to do some there. There might be room to do some right there, although that area is kind of tight right there because there's a fence and then there's a path. There's a 10-foot walk path that goes all across the frontage here. So this area here would be a little tight. This area is a pipeline, so we got to stay. That's a no-fly zone right there. We got to stay out of that entirely. That's mowed grass now. It'll be mowed grass when it's over with. And we won't be in it doing anything except crossing it with a path here, and crossing it with a sidewalk right here. And so then that leaves an area right here where we could add some landscaping right there. And Dwayne's willing to work with Lisa to work out what would be appropriate for both to do that, to landscape that area. On the second page, talks about lighting. The lighting plan that we were given was really hard to read. So what I would say about the lighting plan is that Dwayne's intention is to comply with the lighting ordinance, with the fixtures, and with the illumination that's allowed at the. There are illumination requirements that are required to be met at the property lines, and the intent is for that lighting plan. And I think if we could read it, I think it would comply. But the intent is for that lighting plan to comply, and we're waiting on a revised lighting plan from the lighting supplier. We just don't have it yet. So our intent is to have a plan that does comply. Lisa will review that plan when we get a revised one, and unless we need to be back here for some kind of waiver or variance to exceed the lighting standards, then she'll confirm that the lighting plan complies.
Is it similar to the one that he built on 75 South?
Basically identical, yeah. The difference is the buildings aren't as big. So those buildings are tall. These buildings are not. These buildings are not those type of buildings. The look is the same. The color scheme is the same. And the lighting fixtures are the same, but they won't be as high up on the wall because the walls aren't as tall. But basically, it's an identical project to that. The idea is for this facility, 75 South, New Winchester, the one that's just west of town, just west of 200 West. The idea is for them to have a common, Pittsburgh's got one in Pittsburgh now. The idea is for them all to have a similar theme, and they would all look, you would know that it's a Hawkeye Storage whether you're in Danville or whether you're in Pittsburgh. So yes, the long answer to your question is they would be very similar to what's on 75 South. The fence around the 75 South property, same thing, black vinyl coated chain link fence. Would be the same type of fence around the outer perimeter where we don't have a building. There was 2 lighting plans submitted. One had a light pole that is out here at the entrance where the gate is and where the gate opener is. And the idea is to use the plan that has the pole because it lights that area. This area right here is important to be lit because people will be there with their windows down and maybe even have to get out of their car or their truck to get the gate to open. So the idea is for that area to be well lit. But it would be in compliance with the ordinance. So whatever foot candles we're allowed to have or light illumination we're allowed to have is what we would propose to do here. And if we can do that with a pole, then we'd propose to do it with a pole. The pedestrian circulation plan. So what that's talking about is sidewalk along the perimeter of this thing. So the staff's recommendation is a 10-foot wide path along Main Street, 5-foot wide path along 300, and I don't know if this is 4 or 5 Barry, but the path that's along, or the sidewalk that's along Gale Road, I think would just be a continuation of the sidewalk that's there. Yeah, so it's either 4 or 5. I'm not sure if it's 4. It's probably 4.
It's 4 foot.
Yeah, so this would be 4 foot here, 10 foot, and 5 foot. And then staff talks about having some connection. I think it's talking about, I don't know exactly, but I think they're talking about having connection to 300 right out here.
At the southeast corner where that goes out toward Main Street, I feel that should go to the east, across from the west side of 300.
Yeah, the
Like that's where it
path sends you into the center of the intersection on the radius instead of going across, because eventually in a perfect world, that path is going to continue down East Main Street. So it makes more sense to cross 300 instead of sending you into the intersection.
So what we may have to push that just a little bit north because there's a
Drainage ditch?
Yeah.
Yep.
And a pipe that goes under
Okay.
300.
Okay.
But it'd be on the north side of that, wherever that pipe is where it would have to be.
Okay.
And we're working with Cameron actually on his property, so we'll make them align.
I know when we pulled it up on the maps, I thought that was the issue, was that culvert pipe going under 300
Yeah,
is why
it's-
that didn't line
It's
up.
down pretty low, and I think it has a concrete head wall, so we just have to miss it.
Okay.
Is that the front of the comment there on the pedestrian? Okay. And then as far as signage goes, there would propose to be a sign, and I understand that, that the sign would have to get approved and then get a permit from Lisa's office and Barry's office for the sign to be constructed. So then it would be similar to the sign that's on 75 South also. It'd be very similar to that. But whatever permit's required for that,
I
we'll.
assume it would be going in that open corner there,
So
on the
that's
southeast corner.
Well, we've talked about putting it here, and we've also talked about, there's a little area right here that's outside of the pipeline easement and outside of the fence. Talked about putting it here too, so, I don't know, one or the other of those two places is likely where it'll land.
Yeah, the only thing we need to keep in mind there is our line of sight coming off of 300.
Yeah, yes.
Whatever the case is, we need to make sure we still have line of sight making that turn, because that's a tricky intersection. So we just want to make sure we don't block our line of sight wherever you put that.
Okay, understood. And then the very last comment, the last paragraph, so in addition to the staff comments, staff recommends some type of architectural feature on the rear side of the buildings, that front main and 300 East. And so I don't know how familiar you all are with buildings that are at 75 South, but they have it's a two-tone metal for the wainscoting around the bottom with a darker metal on the bottom and a lighter metal. Like the first 4 feet is a darker metal, and then the rest of the way up is a lighter metal, so a two-tone type of building. And that's what we propose to have. Actually, the whole buildings all the buildings are that way. In here, all the way around on all 4 sides of all the buildings would be proposed to have that two-tone wainscoting style of metal. And that's what we'd like to do on all of it.
So a quick question, what's the wall height that's going to be facing East Main Street? Is that an 8-foot wall or is it a 12-foot wall?
It's an 8-foot wall. That's an 8-foot wall.
Okay.
They're all that height. Peaks will be a little different on the buildings just because some of them are a little wider, but the wall heights are the same all the way around, all throughout.
And it's all vertical siding?
It is.
The ribs are vertical? Okay.
So that's the main difference between this property and the one on 75 South is just the height of the buildings. Those buildings on 75 South are intended to store vehicles, trailers, motorhomes. These are not. These are intended to store household items. These are more your typical self-storage lockers that have 10-foot wide units with a 8 or 9 foot wide roll-up door. I imagine there'll be some mixed in there that are 5-foot wide units also. And that's it. That's all I have.
The landscaping,
Okay, go ahead.
I'd like to know the total number of storage units that are contained in the 9 buildings.
I'm gonna have to do some math because I don't know the answer to that. What, do you know the answer to that? So about 380.
Hear that, Sue?
308.
Yes.
Yeah.
80, 380 approximately.
80.
Yes.
Got it.
and these are all different, varying sizes, right?
Yes.
Okay.
How many vehicles at the gate, at the entrance, how many can be in line?
One.
Just one with the gate?
Yep.
So
We'd
there-
love there be a traffic jam there, but I just likely that's not going to happen.
Yeah,
But it's
yeah.
one. The answer's one.
Okay.
Dale, I do have one question about the pond, and I think I want to bring this up because the way that this plat is nobody's responsible for that pond as it sits. I just want to make sure that we put something in here that portion of the pond that is on Mr. Lane's property, and I know we've talked about this, he will maintain that area of the pond.
The portion of the pond that he can maintain on his own property, he
Yep.
is willing and understands that he would need to keep maintenance on that.
Okay, perfect.
So what he's talking about is this is a property line right here. And these are individual homes that are in Gale at the crossing, and the property lines actually go out into the water. So the property line between Dwayne and these three runs right down the middle of the pond. And then this person has a section of pond, bank, and water. This person has a section of pond, bank, and water. And this person has a section of pond, bank, and water. And what Dwayne is willing to do and understands it will be his responsibility to do is to maintain that part of the pond that he can do himself.
Just for point of clarification, are you talking about mowing, things
Any
like that?
vegetation, anything that would be on the end of the,
To
that would
make
grow
sure
at
that
the
the
end of
pipe is
intersection,
clear?
because that's a main artery of discharge of water that picks up everything west,
Pipes
just to
open?
make sure it's maintained and kept clear.
Yeah.
Now,
I've
any-
talked about that. So
Okay.
what Barry's talking about is there's a storm sewer pipe that comes through here, and it picks up area here plus the street. And I think currently right here, that pipe is somewhat compromised with cattails and silt and junk that's run off the street over from years and years of neglect, basically. And so what we're going to do is clean the end of that out so that water can get into the pond. And the end of that pipe actually is on Dwayne's property. And that's about
Yeah,
where it stops.
yeah.
So we'll keep that clean. I've been working with Dwayne a while now, and so what I do know about Dwayne's sites is they're very well manicured and kept up. And this area will not be forgotten.
Okay.
So can I add something else to that? In what form can we ensure that that gets done? I mean, is it something that's recorded? Is a document that we can attach to the file somehow? I'm
Well,
just saying.
I think if their submittal, and this is, I'm just throwing this out there, is I think if we put this on this site plan, that this property owner will maintain the pond that is on his property, I think that clarifies it. I mean, this isn't a recorded plat or anything, but we
Right.
have documentation.
Right.
I know we can go back to a couple of other developments where we found some notes that in the plan commission, they brought up the fact that it was going to be maintained, and that seemed to work.
Right.
Even though we
It-
still have to give out reminders.
Yeah,
but,
and that's good. My only concern is that if this property ever transfers, then how does that new owner know? If it's just a note on a site plan,
They're not going to know it. Yeah.
that's why I was thinking maybe something recorded, some form, and we can work that out with
Yeah.
Dale.
Kind of a development commitment that I would say could be recorded.
But,
Is
Okay.
there anything on the other portion of the retention pond as far as, is that just the three homeowners that have that? Or is that part of the?
Yeah,
deal, the
their
project?
property lines go into the lake, and there's not anything on the plat that says, hey, the HOA, which never formed,
Yeah.
is going to take care of it, or the property owners are going to take it.
so there's no fees collected or anything to,
Yeah.
But currently, there's no way to enforce or make a person clean up the pond.
Yeah, yeah.
Sue has a question.
The notes of the case summary states that the staff recommends some type of architectural feature. In other places in the memo, it says must. Does the staff recommendation guarantee that this will take place?
It's going to be determined by the plan commission.
The architectural features
Right. That's
on the
just,
building?
yes. That is the staff's recommendation to the plan commission, but it's ultimately up to.
Okay. That clarifies that. And the same goes for the landscape material.
Correct.
Are they guaranteed to be made, or do they go to the other commission?
There's no other commission, but it's up to you as the plan commission. What is going to be the landscaping?
Okay. So, that could, the approval could be made contingent on those two things?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
So I don't know, since she can't see what we're talking about, I don't know if she has been able to hear that. Work with the staff on the landscaping issues, and we've also made a proposal for how we're going to handle the architectural enhancements of the building.
Sue, did you hear the comment from the project engineer? Who's-
No, I heard intermittent parts of it.
Okay.
Could you repeat?
Yes, so there are areas on the site plan that they're required to do landscaping, and they have done that, and they are going to comply with that requirement. Along Main Street, there are no set requirements because it's not adjacent to residential. So.
Got it.
But they are willing to work with the staff on coming up with some sort of a landscape plan just to kind of soften that, soften some of those buildings.
Okay, so, I appreciate that comment, and the same goes for architectural features?
Yes, I mean, if that's something that they agree to do.
So I think I'm going to ask a question just to be clear on what we're looking for on the wall. Are we asking for additional landscaping along the building itself? On facing East Main Street, or are we asking for an architectural change to the building on that
We're
portion?
asking for both,
Okay.
is what we're asking
Okay.
for.
So would that be like possibly like a instead of the dual color, possibly a brick wainscoting or stone, something like that, rather than just a change in color. And that would just be for building B and building I, is that correct?
So building,
There, that's good
B and
enough.
E.
Well, it doesn't label the building though, does it? It would be,
You were talking this one.
he's right.
Yeah.
Well,
Because
I
they
think,
face,
I
they
really
face.
think it'd be building
yeah,
B because building I has doors.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
So there wouldn't be much,
So just building B,
I think that would be, if you're talking about doing a stone or some kind of veneer, that's what you're looking for. I
yeah,
think.
okay.
So Dwayne, what they're asking for is, Lisa, are you going back to the site plan?
it'd be like the second
Yeah,
page,
it'd just be
second,
that
third
one.
page in.
I did.
One
Yeah.
to the very first,
So-
actually, it's like the fourth. Building B is actually at the corner of Main and Hill Road. And I is at the corner.
Well, and I didn't realize I had doors on both sides, so that
Okay,
wouldn't
so
be
that's okay.
included.
So one of the things that I'll just make a comment, if, we probably need to do one or the other, because if we put brick on the lower half of the wall and we cover it up with landscaping, that kind of defeats the purpose.
Well, and I'm not talking about necessarily a continuous hedge. I'm just talking
Okay.
about something, you know, something that will not just, where you won't drive by and just see this wall of metal, because the doors are going to be facing to the north. So you're not on those. Everything's going to be facing inward. So all you're going to see is a metal wall, and that's the only concern that I have.
So like buildings B and building E,
He has doors.
E has doors?
Face out.
Yeah. We,
No, there's traffic on both sides.
I think if there's traffic lanes going,
Yeah.
that indicates doors on both sides, correct?
And I'm not saying, I'm not opposed to, you know, if they can do enough landscaping to make it look nice, if they, you know,
Stone is that, I think it would look, honestly, I believe that it would look out of place if we did stone on this
Yeah.
right here, on one. I think it's better treated with landscaping. Because I think with the two-tone metal, which doesn't look terrible, the two-tone metal doesn't, actually, I think it looks good, honestly. And I think if we landscape this area to soften the look from the road to the metal wall with landscaping, and not a continual hedge, we'll do it with some trees and some hedge maybe, I don't know. We'll sort that out with Lisa, but we soften that up with some landscaping in this area and also up there on, in front of building that faces 300. I think we can, nice.
And along E and the bottom part of H, I guess, you're sort of hemmed in by the easement, correct?
is there any, I mean, what is your aisle width on that? Do you know? Is there any way to be able to get something along there?
It's already pinched down, but that area is so far from the actual
Yeah.
road. That's a long ways from the road. 100 feet wide. I mean, it's a little deceiving how far that is from this intersection right here. That's a good distance back.
So then, if you don't mind if I make another comment then, so when you were talking about putting a sign at the corner there, you will have to do some landscaping for the sign, which maybe that will help a little bit with building E and whatever it is, H or,
It's underneath the numbers, I think it is.
to see. So, maybe there could be some landscaping in that corner that would help,
That'll break it up
just
some.
make it look a little bit nicer. As long as it doesn't interfere with the line of sight.
I think if we're back behind that path, I think if we're back in there, we're behind the line of sight.
I was thinking too.
And around the whole property, there's black chain link fencing, is that what you said?
A vinyl coated black chain link fence, yes.
And how tall is the fence?
6 foot tall.
Okay, and so the landscaping would go outside of the fencing?
Well, there is no, the fence doesn't go all the way around. So
Okay.
where the building wall is, where there are no doors, the building wall serves as the perimeter or the boundary. Like here, for example, on this north side of these buildings that back up to Gale, the only fence that there is right here
Oh, okay,
and a little bit right there, but the rest of it is building wall that doesn't require fence because the building is there. And,
Okay.
and we have that same scenario here on this building. This building doesn't have doors out here, so we don't have fence. So fence picks up here
Mm-hmm.
and then goes around all those sides right there. That's the majority of the fence right there.
okay.
So the site is only secured by the buildings? I mean, there's no fence that goes around the, okay.
Which is how it is at 75 South also. Same way.
So you're proposing a 6-foot fence on the front part of that area?
And then the lights then all face north too, correct? Because the doors face north, so all the lights are above the doors?
There are doors on this side and this side.
Okay,
So there'll be lights over those doors. The idea, and then where the doors face each other, the idea is to have lights that are kind of diagonal. That's hard, I'm shaking. It's like, this thing is really hard to hold still. So you get a light at the corner and then you get a light man, I just can't hold that still. You get a light diagonal. So they're diagonal from each other. So they're not opposing. They're offset from each other.
okay,
And then yes, there'll be lights on the outer, facing outside on these. The requirement is for the lights to have a shield that directs them down. And the
Okay.
detail that we turned into staff reflects that. So the light fixture will do that.
thank you.
You also have a copy of the light fixtures in your packet.
Is this GB? LB? Are 6-foot fences allowed in the LB? I thought that was only allowed in IL, in the front yard with 6 foot.
I think he's right. I think it takes a variance from the Board of Zoning Appeals to
So-
get 6'4", I think is what's permitted.
I think IL allows the 6 foot, but the 6 foot on the front is a little bit concerning. But if that requires a variance, we can push that off onto the BZA and not include that fence in this site plan. Just the ones in the front, because the ones in the back, I understand.
Well, the ones in the front are basically all the way around,
Yeah.
because it's on front on,
So
right.
have you determined that 6 foot is what you need to secure?
I'm 49 years old, I could jump a 4-foot fence.
Can you jump a 6 foot fence?
I could climb it, but I couldn't jump it.
Okay.
Well, I think it's necessary.
So I think we just need to bring up that it will require a variance. I thought so, but I can't remember for sure.
I think we do. Well, I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think I am.
If you propose that and it
And I already had that discussion, so
Okay.
we're prepared for that if necessary.
Okay.
That's for me, yes.
Anybody have any more questions for him?
I have just a couple of comments. In the letter, I made a comment that This would be subject to Joe Miller. Does not have any.
And he has none?
He has no comments.
I think that means storage is adequate.
Yes.
Perfect.
Anybody else have any questions? If not, since this is a public hearing, I will open it up to comments from the audience. If you have something you wish to say, you need to come up to this microphone, give your name and your address where you live, and say what you want to say. Now, in essence of time, we don't need to talk about zoning because that's over. I mean, that's set. Zoning is done. So this is strictly a site plan review. So, anybody has anything to say, please come forward and speak.
David Kroll. I live at 2823 Linwood Court, which is just a little bit off of the site plan. I've lived there for 12 and a half years, and God willing, it'll be another 12 and a half years. I came in and reviewed the plans in January and then again last week. I've got 5 comments, and I appreciate Lisa's review and her comments. The first one's regarding the buildings, some sort of architectural treatment. Dwayne has built a number of houses in the neighborhood, and all of the houses are brick. And I think that the two-tone metal doesn't quite cut it. I think the base of the buildings need to be brick. His facility out at New Winchester has cultured stone, I believe, for the base, and that is even on the part of the buildings that have the doors at face 36. So I would like to see brick wainscot included along all the building faces that are onto Meyer Road, East Main, and then 300 East. Second comment is regarding the fencing. I know it is a vinyl-coated chain link, but there's a storage facility on 300 East just south of Main Street, and it has masonry piers and picket fence in between. And again, because this is at the major entrance into a residential neighborhood that has all brick, I think it'd be nice to have brick piers with picket fence instead of the vinyl-coated chain link. Number 3, the landscaping. I appreciate Lisa's comment about some additional landscaping. I think the landscaping should be along Meyer, Main, and 300 East. I don't understand why you can build a sidewalk across a gas easement and not plant across a gas easement. So it'd be nice to have landscaping on those 3 sides. The lighting, I think the lighting's okay. It's a low-level light. The image that they provided showing the lighting scheme is looking out of the neighborhood, and I think it'd be better if we were looking into the neighborhood, or vice versa. So whatever level of light is shining into the neighbors' houses from the backside of the development would be interesting to see. And then the last item, this entrance is on Meyer Road, and it's right across the street from Hendricks Therapy. Hendricks Therapy always has vehicles parked on the curb. It's a very tight, congested intersection. This is the main way in and out of anybody who lives in the neighborhood is coming into town or heading into Indianapolis. The way the building B, I guess it is situated at kind of an angle, that's going to make a very tight turn to get in to punch the buttons to get into the facility. You'll have vehicles parked over on the west side of the street, and if you're pulling a trailer or something going into your storage unit, you're going to be blocking the road. So if that building could be squared up with Main Street and Meyer Road instead of at that little angle, that may make it an easier turn. Or is there another location for the entrance into the facility, either off of East Main or 300, or even off of Gale instead of the main entrance right there? And in closing, I understand there's going to be no open storage. Everything's going to be within the units, and there's dust control requirement because this is a gravel lot. So, okay.
Thank you. Anybody else? Hearing none, we'll close the open portion of the meeting.
Lisa,
Yes, Sue.
can you just repeat the motion to me in my ear as soon as it's made?
Oh, yes, we will repeat it.
Thank you.
Anybody have any comments about what that gentleman said?
Well, I would, and I have some concerns about that there's only the ability for one vehicle be, I guess, in line at the kiosk or the pad to enter that with the traffic going in and out of the neighborhood. And I know it's not like it's a 500 home neighborhood, but there are, I think that's something that needs to be considered. Is there any way that could be, that building be maybe squared up to create a little more daylight in there, to allow maybe a couple of cars to, or a vehicle with a trailer? So if they're waiting to get in there, they wouldn't be blocking the road?
So we could maybe square up building B. And then, can you turn that image? One more. So you're talking about this building, this one here,
Yeah.
square, yeah. So I think that we could square that up and pick a different, I think we could be a little more conservative with the location of the gate to gain a space for maybe two, or a trailer, or a vehicle with a trailer on it.
Well, and that's a concern I had as well, that, you know, if you're waiting to get in there and you've got vehicles parked on the other side of the street there, and, you know, maybe one other person and I know that's not like it's a, you know, 10 or 20 cars getting in and out of these at any one time, but
Yeah, it won't be that busy, but I do think we could potentially square this up, give us a little more room between the buildings, and then push the gate further back off of this road right here. I think we could do that to accommodate a bigger stacking space there. I think we could do that. I don't think we need a lot. I mean, I have a storage unit at Commerce Drive, self-storage, not Dwayne's, but I have one at Commerce Drive self-storage, and I've had it for about 10 years, and I don't think I have ever gone there and had to wait in line to get in. So they're just not heavily visited properties.
What's the
But-
distance from the edge of the street to the gate?
Right now, it's about 20 feet, but I think we can probably get that to 30. We can probably get it to maybe 35.
That would probably help.
We can probably get it to a little more than 35, actually. If we we take the angle out of that and rotate it down.
Are you bound by, is a storm structure keeping you from moving that building over at all?
Which one are you talking about, Barry?
B?
Moving it to the
To get-
east?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, there's an
Okay.
easement there. It's not storm sanitary, but
Okay.
we're right up on the easement.
So you are on the easement edge?
We're pretty close. We maybe
Okay.
could move it, we could probably move it 4 or 5 feet maybe,
Okay,
and that may help.
yeah.
But we could do that.
I guess also for the record, what is the, as far as landscaping in an easement like that? I'm not familiar with the gas easements.
Well, they don't want you planting
I
any
know they don't
trees.
want you planting anything. Could you put anything on the, like out where the, possibly where the sign along there, just as
I
the
think we
other side of
could,
that easement?
and I think we can plant there. I think it's just at risk of if utility
tear it
company.
up,
Yeah,
yeah.
right.
The comment about the brick, pardon me, wainscoting, I do understand since the whole neighborhood behind it is brick, that would give it just more of a sense of continuity there. Is there, I mean, is that a huge pricing upgrade? I'm gonna
Yeah,
guess
it's
yes.
big. It is
It's
big. Yeah, it's huge. And if the ordinance required it, I think it would be on there. We wouldn't be asking for a waiver, but the ordinance doesn't require it. So I feel like that between, the mix between the two-tone and the metal and the landscaping around the outer perimeter, we have landscaping up here too, around the outer perimeter, that I think that will soften up the blow to the buildings.
I have a you may not know the answer to this, but the property to the west, what is it that's in there? Where the cars parked out on the street?
It's a medical office of some sort, but
Yeah.
I don't know
Why do they
what.
park on the street? They don't have any parking lot or what? Not enough parking lot.
That could be.
It's not enough.
Yeah,
Oh, no.
they have a parking lot, but it's never enough. I don't know how many offices they have in that building, but they must have a bunch.
They actually park across the street where the church is. The church and them have an agreement for them to park over there if necessary.
South side of-
I believe the employees park on the south side of 36. I know they walk across. So they're trying to do what they can to minimize putting cars on the road, but it happens every day. It's just,
Any other questions? Okay. So let's sum up just a little bit what we've kind of agreed to and
you want to look at my notes?
sure.
You can read my writing, you're more than welcome to it. I think those are the 4 items that I think that everybody's mentioned that's important, and one of them I think will have to be worked out between staff and Mr. Cruz, whether it be stone, landscaping, or a combination of both.
Did not do cursive back when you were in school either?
My cursive is worse than my printing, Mr. Thompson, so it may not get you anywhere.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Well, you got landscaping, and then you got architectural features out at the side.
Yeah, landscaping or some kind of architectural brick on the building. The landscaping's not gonna be able to be up against the building with the aisleway for the vehicles. You're not gonna be able to put that up against the building. So it'd be moved off of the aisleway, outside that aisleway. I'm just trying to visualize what really, I know what we're asking for. I know, and I'll just come out and say it, the building that he has put on 36 out by 75 south, or 75, is an outstanding looking building. And I think everybody in this room would really hope that he would do that, but there is a cost to that. And in lieu of that, or whether it be landscaping, whether it be brick, I think we put that into the hands of the planner and say, let's come up with a plan. It kind of makes it hard to say one or the other because the ordinance doesn't require it. So I'm not really sure where to go with that one, to be honest with you. I put that on there to say, if we can come up with a plan, then maybe we go with that.
Yeah. So the facility in New Winchester is what you're talking about.
Yeah.
It's actually on 36.
Yeah.
West of 75, State Road 75.
Yeah.
So that's in the county, obviously, and they do have a different set of rules. So that's probably why that building got constructed like it did. It is a nice facility, and that's what I would envision wanting to see here at a minimum.
Right.
But yes, that is under another
So
jurisdiction.
I'll throw something else out here since we're really asking for more than what's required. if we shorten the width of the path out front, would that help offset the cost of putting some stone on those buildings facing East Main Street and not necessarily 300 or Meyer Road? Would that be something that Mr. Lane would be willing to look at?
So, well, I'm sure that it would be.
Okay.
But which buildings were you talking about?
So I'm looking at B and E, because I don't think you can do it continuously on H or I. You're going to have to stop brick somewhere along there if you want to, otherwise you're going to hide it with building I. Right now, I'm looking at building B and building E.
Building E has doors, so there'd be slivers.
So what is the separation between the door? Okay. So that's another issue that, from a building standpoint, that's difficult to build. I mean, you're basically putting a little bitty, so I understand that completely. And it may not look very good if we do building B and not do any of the other buildings. So building I, building E, and building B or building E have doors on both sides. Is that right? I and E, and then building B does not have anything on the south side. Okay.
Yeah, that seems to be a little strange to put it on just that one building and none of the rest.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out, what about if we did a 4-foot ornamental fence just on, I'm going to say 4 foot because I know that's what's allowed. If you go to the BZA and they choose to do something different, then I don't know how that works on our decision-making, but if they were to do some kind of ornamental fence along those roads instead of brick or landscaping, is that an option?
So what if we did when you were talking about the combination of use with and the sum?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the lease would be 5, because this is 5.
Right.
So we wouldn't go less than that. In return for like a wrought iron
I,
fence. In exchange for a chain link fence.
okay.
With brick pillars.
Could we do that? Could that be done, could that be done in between just those small spaces?
Here?
On those,
Yes.
that faces the property, and I'm thinking about the folks, looking out their back window.
Yes, it could be done there. There also has been, this homeowner expressed some concern about headlights, where a person would come around this way and maybe a headlight be shining through. So if we did a wrought iron fence here, we could potentially put a slat, I don't know what to call it, but a slat between so it would almost be like a solid wall fence.
I think that would look nice. And I feel like the landscaping in front of Building B would, whatever that entails, that would, I agree that I think having stone on the bottom, just that one building would not.
It'd look
a little
out of place.
Yeah.
I think if we did landscaping on that full wall on that building and then transition that to the fence, then I think we get a look that doesn't seem out of place. We don't get the stone, but I look at this site plan and I look at it and I'm like, it's really going to be hard. If that was one wall all the way across 36, yeah, makes sense. But we got a lot of offsets, and that's not due to a design problem. That's due to because we've got a Marathon pipeline easement, or I think it's Marathon, but there's a pipeline going through that kind of restricts what they can do with the site.
Right.
And no matter who builds on this site, it's going to be difficult in that corner. I would certainly support that.
Second item you had down here was the recorded document for a pond.
Yep, we can come up with that.
We can do that.
Okay. I think that'd be a good idea.
Well, then it's clear for future. I mean, it's one thing for Dwayne to understand, but when he sells this thing eventually, then the next person, it's on record. The next person knows that it's a deal that they have to that they have to do.
Third item you had down was square up building B. You were talking about squaring
For
that up
the
a bit.
entrance, I like that idea, to square that, try to get a little bit more room in there for, I don't know if I'd call it stacking, but that's virtually what it is.
Number 4, I'm not sure what you got written down there. Straighten, something about walking path or something.
So, yeah, that's the path that we talked about. We'll work together on that path where it turns into East Main Street.
Oh,
Try to get it squared up and straightened up so that if we do to continue the path, that we can make that transition easily.
Just a matter of time before it's continued.
The problem there is you can't move it too far back because we're behind the stop bar. We're gonna have the same problem on the other side because there's a large ditch there, but we'll work on that. I just think I want to put that out there to get it the best that's possible. Give it to Gerald.
okay. Okay. Anything else? Anybody? Okay, thank you. At this time, I would entertain a motion to either approve this site plan review or not.
So I move to approve the site plan review for Hawkeye Storage, Gale at the Crossing, Outlot number 3.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Do I hear a second? You want to read the motion, tell her the motion?
I
I
just want
think
to,
we need to add
Add the
the
conditions.
commitments
The conditions,
that was talked
yes.
about here. You want me to give that to
Oh,
you?
contingent upon, okay. Okay, let's see how well I do here. Okay, so contingent upon the following: landscaping, architectural features. Number 2, recorded document for the pond. Number 3, the squaring up of Building B. And number 4, I'm sorry,
Well, they were talking about the path.
not the walking path change and change the fence to the ornamental type fence. So contingent upon these being agreed upon by the planning staff or agreement being reached? Is that correct? Okay. I move to approve the now I can't talk, the site plan review for Hawkeye Storage, Gale at the Crossing, Outlot number 3.
Okay. Do I
I'll
hear a
second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Mr. Gerald.
Aye.
Mr. Harvey.
Aye.
Mr. Thompson.
Aye.
Howard.
Problem is tonight, Miss Howard.
Aye.
I vote aye as well.
we have,
Miss Rimpert.
Sue, did you understand that motion and everything?
It's approved with site plan with conditions.
Yes, ma'am.
Landscaping architectural path.
Yes, a recorded document for the maintenance of the pond, squaring up of Building B, and reducing the path along Main Street, and the ornamental fence.
Yes, yes. I was able to make out most of that, and I will vote yes.
Yes? Okay.
Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate your
Thanks,
time
Dale.
this evening.
That paperwork out of sight. Next.
Did it carry?
Yes. Yes, it did carry.
Thank you.
All right. Next item. Oh, we did that one. I was going to go to B, but we're on new business now. Public hearing, request to rezone property located at approximately 125 North County Road 200 East from RB Single Family Residential County to Planned Unit Development, PUD, 59.7 acres.
Okay, this property is located on the east side of County Road 200 East, just north of the Friends Church. They have filed for annexation before the town council. Let's see, what you have in your packet is the PUD ordinance. They're wanting to propose a residential PUD. It consists of single-family and two-family dwelling homes. And Richard Henderson is here or Joe Caldron is here to make a presentation. Come on up. You got it, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you and good evening. Joe Calderon, 11 South Meridian. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Thank you. I represent Premier Land Company 2. They are a Indianapolis-based residential land developer. There's only a few of those folks around these days. So they develop projects, mostly single family, but there's been a big push lately for duplex type product, which is very suitable for empty nesters. And that's sometimes when you mix uses, it makes sense to do a PUD because it's hard to kind of split zone exactly right. Richard Henderson with Premier is here tonight. Richard is a civil engineer by trade, so if you have any questions regarding things that require an engineering background, he'll be able to answer those. And Todd Roberts, one of the principals with Premier, is also here. So here's our PowerPoint. As Lisa mentioned, this was introduced last week. We meet all the contiguity requirements. We didn't have any pushback from town council. Here's the site. It's, as Lisa said, 59.7 acres. There's 2 homes here that we abut to that are not part of the project, but we have spoken with those folks. There are some neighbors along East Main, and of course the church on the corner, and the fairgrounds across the street, the orchard to the east. Next slide. This is the zoning map, which is very colorful, meaning that there's lots of different zoning classifications nearby. Lots of GB for the Walmart, for the corner, even to the north of us. A special use park district for the fairgrounds. You see some R4, some R1, some R2, and then of course some kind of county ag zoning. This is in your comprehensive plan in an expected growth area, so we think that it should make sense for you to consider residential development as appropriate for this much acreage as we are proposing. There's also there really isn't any infrastructure need that is not available at the site, which is conducive for growth. We're not going way out for the town or having to extend services. So we think this is actually a smart growth type of proposition. Next slide, please. Here's the concept plan. The darker red lots are the 38 buildings. These are the duplex product up north, a single family product to the south. You'll note that we have a significant amount of green area and a coordinated pond lake system, but we put those strategically, and sometimes you need a little luck, to create some buffer from our neighbors, and we have amenity areas that are connected, as Lisa had put in her staff report, both here and here. All told, there's 30% open space, which is in excess of what your PUD ordinance requires. There's 92 of these lots 76 units, so our overall density is 2.8. Next slide. Here's statistically kind of the way the table would read. As mentioned, 92 single-family lots. The minimum lot area is 7,800 square feet, a minimum lot width of 60 feet, 25-foot front setbacks, side yard minimum of 6 feet each side for both A and B, and our minimum livable floor area for a single story is 1,500 and then 1,800. Many of the floor plans are far in excess of that. These are just, again, minimums. For the duplex type product, it's really 9,400 square feet or 5,900 square feet per unit, if you will. There's a minimum lot width at the building line of 46 feet, and the minimum livable area is 1,400 for a single-story type unit, and then 1,800 for a two-story. There's not very much two-story product, but there is some additional loft space or in some of the floor plans. There are 2 committed builders for this project, and we anticipate, if we're fortunate enough to receive your favorable recommendation, then town council approval to get started in the spring, but construction probably won't be till next year, 2022 sometime. Next slide, please. We did do a traffic study. As part of the PUD process, we have had tech committee meetings. We did do a traffic study. This is kind of report card you'd love to see your kids bring home, all A's. The same kind of goes for studied intersections. They are graded A through F. In this case, the existing conditions, this is as they sit in January of 2021. The key intersections studied, 200 at Main, 200 at 100. Everything's operating at level service A. That equates to what you might expect during peak times, morning and evening, a delay at the intersection, and then the queuing. Add in the project, or when you add in 5 years of 2% growth, you are at all A's still. And then when you add the project and then growth, here you've got a scenario where you're really graded at all A's at the public intersections, and then A's and B's coming out of the development. So you might have to spend a couple extra seconds, but B is still a very good level of service from a traffic perspective. So what all this means is that the traffic engineer concluded that really no infrastructure improvements, turn lanes, passing blisters is required for the project to be successful. Obviously, there was time and effort and money spent on creating the roundabout just south, but everything's functioning just great and will continue to do so following the implementation of this project, even looking out into a time horizon. Next slide, please. And this is the PM peak. You can see that pretty much the same scenario, although there is a grade B existing in 5 years without the project. That stays the same, so the grades are all A's and B's at the main intersections and the intersections where the development would come out into the public streets. Next slide. This is a view of what we kind of envision the entryways to look like. There are 2 entryways on 200. You can see them on the site plan. The masonry sign just advertising the name of the proposed subdivision, and then landscaping enhancements. Next slide. Here's some of the home selections. These are kind of character exhibits of particular projects. There's a number. These are the single-family section. Please continue. And here we are into kind of the duplex section, which is a different builder. This is one of the type of renderings of the duplex. This one does have a second level. We did pull into the ordinance architectural standards, which should have been in the packet. They include everything from anti-monotony, a minimum amount of masonry. We have fence and wall standards that would meet with the town, and a host of other types of commitments that are in the form of architectural standards.
Not like you're gonna build 4 or 5 of the same in a row.
We won't build them next to each other at all. So there's enough models and floor plans to where you won't have it next door or across the street from each other. The Premier has developed a number of subdivisions. I've worked with them for 5 years now, and every single one of them, we've never had anything but praise. When we come back, we do this in various communities. We come back. This was just a extra slide in case you had a drainage question, but we do have architectural grade shingles, dusted on carriage lights, roof overhangs, minimum of 12-inch or 8-inch when a bricky meets. We do have 2-car minimum garages. There is room for 3. Lisa suggested that she wanted a little offset if we did do a 3-car garage. We agreed to that, and I'll just run through, because we did have some time to address her report even today, and I will address some of the comments she had in her case summary. She mentioned street signage. We agree with that. We did add a tree preservation easement to the ordinance today, as well as to the development plan, which is an upgrade from what you probably saw since that came in this afternoon. We'll expand to a 10-foot wide path, a multi-use path. The amenities are now connected. That was a good idea. We've incorporated that into the ordinance and to the concept plan. There was a suggestion that we upgrade the vinyl thickness from 0.42 to 0.44. We'd like to stick with 0.42, but we're certainly willing to discuss that with you. Vinyl is not what it was 20 years ago with the lap siding and all that. These are very well done. It's not installed the way it used to be with long bands. It's much different. Its texture, the colors are beautiful these days. We did, as previously mentioned, increase the offset for the garages. And then the roof pitch, our minimums are for the single-family homes are 612, no problem there. There are some gables in the duplex product that is 512. Now, the front gables are much higher than that. We're just talking minimum. If you want to go back to some of those, such as that. So you see some of the gables are far in excess of 512, but some of the other main portion of the house behind is at a 512, and we'd like to keep it that way if at all possible. And we'll certainly limit it to the duplex product as we have done in the ordinance. This will be association, homeowners association will be formed, so the town won't have to worry about common areas. That'll be the responsibility of the association. And I think we've addressed all the other comments that that Lisa had. So with that, I'll stop and allow you to digest this and ask any questions you may have of me or my client. Thank you.
I ask this, what is the difference in the cost between the 4,200 and 44?
In the cost on a per square foot basis?
Yeah.
Or something? I don't know if they do it by linear foot or square foot.
I mean, you're talking about 5%, 10%?
Unfortunately, my builder's not here with me tonight, but it's, yeah, I'd say that it's probably adding about a 10% on the vinyl itself.
Just on the
price.
vinyl.
Yeah, and some of the things, there's a little bit of loss, but not a significant amount on it. When you go to the higher grades, you lose some of the variation in colors that are available, and you lose some of the texture options. But, so that's one issue. But if it's a big, yeah. Right.
Hey, Richard, could you please state your name for the record?
Premier Land Company.
I had a question on the duplexes, and I know you say each of those will be individually owned. Will those lots be split in half
Yes.
then?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Okay,
what's shown in red is a 92-foot wide lot, which is split in
so those will be two separate parcels
Correct.
essentially?
two separate lots.
Okay.
So that brings up a question. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
So that for them to be individually owned, we're talking now condominiums. We're really not talking about duplexes, right?
They would be an individual lot, so your center, your common wall is a zero, is a
Zero.
lot line.
Okay.
Okay, so that line goes down the wall of the building, the center of the building. That don't have to be.
You just do a party wall type of.
So, and I'm just bringing this up because I worked somewhere else that had issues that made the state of Indiana and their state statute gets a little weird with that property line, where it starts and where it begins. Will that be on a plot plan, or will that be part of the recorded plat? I mean, how do we differentiate?
It will all be platted, so the lot line will go straight down the middle, so there won't be any confusion between the two owners'
Okay.
deeds. There will be in the covenants, party wall agreement, meaning that each side owes each other certain legal responsibilities.
And each
But it's
side,
not,
go ahead, I'm sorry.
Each unit owner will owe the other certain responsibilities with respect to how it treats the party wall and then the common.
So there won't be any differentiation between the buildings, between the units.
Correct.
They're all going to be the same, so who's going to be responsible for maintaining that exterior?
Well, they will be what we call a low maintenance.
Excuse me, Richard. I'm so sorry. Can you please speak into the microphone? We have a hard time picking it up if you don't. Yeah, right. Thank you.
Yes, each of those, that area of the project will be considered like a low-maintenance area. So each building then will be shared as far as to replace the roof, to paint the building and so on. That will be a shared, they all will participate into the HOA, pay into the HOA so that building, when the
Okay.
roof needs to be replaced, it's done
So that's ran
together.
through the HOA there, so there is a designated
Yes.
funding for the roof,
For
the
capital.
exteriors.
Yeah.
Okay.
Correct.
It'll probably be two HOAs technically.
Well, there'll be separate areas,
Yeah.
right? So there'll
Yeah.
be, the area for the attached product will be a low maintenance, and the single family will not have that low
Okay.
maintenance requirement.
Does that include the grass mowing too on the
Typically
duplexes?
does, yes. It will be offered, I don't know whether it'll be
Driveways,
yeah.
things of that nature.
It may not be a requirement for them, it'll be offered, but most of them typically will pick to have that as part of their maintenance as well. But they will be individually owned, not corporately owned. Each unit will be sold.
So and then on the 044 siding, the reason that's in there is because that's what we've done across the board on all of our PUDs. So I know a PUD is unique, but we try to set those standards at a certain level, and that's our comfort zone, at least it is for myself. I know if you have 25% brick on the front of the house and the rest of it's vinyl, and I know vinyl's come a long way. I see it every day. But I think from a standpoint of warping, buckling, bubbling, I think the 4.4 is a better product. And it's not just my decision, but that's my 2 cents on the siding. And if there's something different or some kind of information you have, and I understand about the colors and the styles, it really limits you, especially when you're talking about a 3-lot snapshot. That brings into another question where the interpretation of the 3-lot snapshot is basically 4 houses. 1, 2, 3, and the one
Across the
directly
street.
across the street. Just want to be clear that that's what we're talking about.
Yes, understood.
Okay.
Yeah, you know, that's one item that we've discussed with the builders as well, and it was more concern, which I think I'm understanding that you're going to make that a continuing request.
Yeah.
We were looking at some of the existing neighborhoods, older neighborhoods that have been approved with the .042, and we want to make sure that, you know, we weren't not, you know, another thing is not competing, you know, appropriately with our competitors and so
Sure,
on.
sure.
But if that is an ongoing, something that you're going to be pushing on every new project, then we're not, you know, wouldn't be necessarily as much opposed to that request.
And that, we did go back and look, and that is what has been approved in the past when we did a PUD. We are trying to bring up the whole, you know, you guys know the purpose of a PUD. I don't
Yes.
have to spell that to anybody here, but the idea is to have trade-offs. We get a better-looking building, you get smaller lots, more houses. That's really it in a nutshell. So I think the 612, I can understand. The 512 in certain situations, I'm not sure how I understand that on the doubles. Because do you guys have any renderings of where that would come into play?
Yeah, if you want to go back to some of those pictures actually are depicted as a 512 pitch. They might not look like it, but they actually,
Just like over the porches.
but if you go back.
those gables will be higher.
If you go back to, where's the pointer here? All right. So for instance, this is a 512. The main roof is a 512.
Is not. Oh, I would.
512? So it's still, if you go down through the rest of the pictures, they're all depicted as.
For the
the
main-
main roof.
Yeah. Since you're really
And that is-
doing,
That is a 512, and this is a 512.
So the main body, yes, thank you. So the main body of the roof on those ranches, they're kind of deep. So it really, that's really one of the main reasons for the little bit less slope. We talked to the builder on the way out here, and he's got 1 or 2 plans that are 612 because they could be. But the front to back is what we're talking about. Once you get into the ranch product, it really lends itself, if they're deep, to that type of a pitch. But all of his pitches on all of the front-facing gables are 912, and so they're pretty steep, and they're fairly, you know, it's a very attractive product. He designed this product from scratch for this project. So it's they've done a fantastic job, in my opinion, of the product design, and I think, as you can tell, I mean, it lends itself to a pretty attractive product the way he's got them laid out. So anyway,
And that makes sense. I certainly can see there's architectural problems when you start changing the
Right.
elevations on your existing
when
floor
you're doing
plans.
doubling the living space on the roof. So, just so you know, the 512 is limited to the duplex product and is stated as a minimum. So you're not
Okay.
we're not trying to bait and switch you. We've got these incorporated into the ordinance as character exhibits. So we're not interested in showing you one thing and doing another, because the next time we come back, we'll get laughed out of town.
And that's a
not
good
what we want.
point, because when I look at these elevations, these are nice-looking homes. Is this indicative of what's going to be built,
Yes.
or do we have something else that maybe another model that we haven't seen?
There is, these are all the floor plans so far that they've developed for this new product line. So, you know, at this point, I don't know of any other elevations. Now, there'll be different color schemes, of course, different styles of brick or whatever on each homes, but as far as, as the, you know, those are the group of four right now plans that they have to build within this neighborhood. And you see some of them have courtyard garages, so not all the garages even front, you know, the street. So if you go to another picture, you'll see one of the courtyard.
Real quick, before you go to another slide. So he said something about a 912?
The gables.
The gables are 912? Okay, so do we say that, though, in the PUD ordinance?
Add something to that effect.
Leading by the ordinance.
The main roof pitch, and the main roof pitch is 512.
We can tweak that, that's not a problem.
I don't know if it specifically says main,
I
but
think we just said minimum.
I like the 912 gables. It gives it a really good look.
usually on the ordinances, what they're looking for is the main, this is usually what's called out as your minimum standard roof pitch.
So what it says, all dwellings in the district, and I'm assuming this is for all of, for both two-family and single-family, primary roof pitch, 512, ancillary roofs, including but not limited to porches, garage extensions, overhangs, blah, 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 on and on, shall not be considered primary roof for the purposes of 512 pitch requirement above. So
Product back, there would be an example like a shed roof. So, like here, all right, so if you stop there.
The porch.
Over the porch and so on would not have.
right.
Again, your primary roof pitch that's calling about, it's a little hard to see on this one, would be behind that. But what it's trying to read in that is that can be less than 512.
I know you said that not many of the duplexes would be two-story. Is that just
We have,
dependent on
we have
who-
two different floor plans.
who
that have two
buys
stories.
them, I guess, and
Yeah, mostly it's most of the buyers for that
Sales,
product are single moms, or retired. or
Empty nester,
active
snowbirds.
adults,
Yeah, yeah.
So, but they did have two of the different units with one side of it with a two-story. Quite a bit square foot.
I have another question, I'm sorry, but all this discussion's bringing up questions. So, and now it just left me. It was something a comment Barry made. Oh, I know what it was. So you said the two-family are going to be owned individually. Do you have another project that you've done like that, or can you name another one that's done that? Because, well, the reason I ask is because originally I thought this was going to be similar to the one at Settlers Run or Redwood or something like that. Is that the same type of?
Those are for lease units. The Redwood product, which has more than just two or whatever attached, but.
Okay.
We've done several projects with MI Homes, and MI has a attached product they call their Villa, and it'd be very similar to this.
I mean, in some of the other municipalities or?
There's a Villa project in Brownsburg. Trying to remember exactly where it is.
We can get you that name. It's fantastic product. It really is.
So is that one of the builders? Are you guys at liberty to say who the builders are?
No, this one is Pyatt Builders. I'm sorry,
Okay.
we should have said that. The PB down there at the bottom is their logo for Pyatt Builders. Todd Pyatt is the owner. We've done a number of projects with them around the city.
And are they the builder of the duplexes as well?
They're the duplex builder.
And D.R. Horton actually will be the builder for the single family. The product that we show for the single family is D.R. Horton's product that's labeled on there, and all of the duplexes or two-family product is Pyatt Builders. So we have two different builders that will be within the neighborhood for us. With different product.
So Lisa has so many good comments here. I'm going to steal her comment for the lighting. I know we've talked about lighting It is required by ordinance.
Yes.
And I
Yeah, no
know she
problems.
pretty much summed it up in that. I want to make sure you guys are aware of that.
Yeah, at this stage, we just don't have all that detail shown yet, but we'll meet the standard on the street lighting at the intersections and required spacing.
I just have a curiosity question. Where did you come up with the name Quail West?
We name so many subdivisions that we come up with things that just kind of, there's actually a subdivision in Florida, outside of Naples, that has a club, has a golf club, and the average price of the homes in Quail West in Florida is probably about $2.5 million. It's just a very attractive area, and I just thought it might be kind of fun to pull that here. This is kind of a west side project, and the Quail West is just something interesting.
And I'm a quail hunter, so I like the name too. So,
Any other questions?
Naming subdivisions isn't that easy, by the way, so
Sure.
you gotta cut it out.
So all the street names gonna be bird names or what?
I don't know if we'll go that far.
yeah, I haven't got to the street names yet. We're open for suggestions, so if you want to provide some.
Well, there's an addition called Quail Run, not too far. There is.
Hopefully, it will get through the 911 as an acceptable name, so.
That's it? No other questions?
Yeah, I have one big question,
Uh-oh.
and this is about zoning. We're rezoning a property. And my biggest question here is and I'm totally on the fence. I love the product. I like what you guys have presented. But for us, as a planning commission, is does this fit the zoning in this area? And I drive out there every day. I see all kinds of different things. And I see commercial, and I struggle with this, thinking about this for a while. And my biggest thing is are we putting a residential neighborhood in the right area? And that's not something that, it's a difficult thing for us right now because the town of Danville is growing like crazy. We need to have a balance of commercial, at least have some available property for commercial. But we need rooftops to have the commercial come. So we're at a place where I like the product. I don't have any issue with the product. I don't have any issue with the subdivision. And Tommy's going to beat me up, but we can't drain through other properties. That's the biggest thing. And I know I brought that up in a TAC meeting. That waterway, don't beat me up too bad. I know this is, we're not talking about drainage, but this is the ordinance, so it's kind of a big deal. If we go with a residential, we know our runoff rates are going to be less. Engineers prove that every time we do a subdivision. The release rates are going to be less than what they were post-construction. But I know we need to design this to go across 200 and not through a private residence that does not have an easement. And it's not a bed and bank. I know we can agree to disagree, but from my standpoint, we are asking for trouble. We have 2 other subdivisions that have this situation, and it doesn't fare well, even when you have a 100-year event, and we plan for those. I am not a proponent of running drainage through another property that we do not have an easement for. That's my 2 cents. That's,
So what are you saying, where would that go if there was a 100-year event? Would that go to the west? Or
so
is that
there
gonna
can
go
be
to
a
the
design,
east?
and there's elevations that can be met, that they do not take this to a property. They take it through our right-of-way, and they run a right-of-way. They run the pipe in the right-of-way to an adequate outlet, and that is the creek that goes through 4-H Fairgrounds. There's a property right there that's got that sheet flows, okay? Taking a whole farm field and sheet flows into that area. But I've lived here my whole life and never seen water in that ditch, and I don't want to see water in that ditch because it's private property. There's not an easement there. And I just wanted to bring that up so that you can, if this does get approved and we do give a favorable recommendation to the council, that you guys can design that appropriately.
There are a number of options or whatever that are available. Naturally, the drainage goes, there is a drainage channel that comes right through here. And it's a well-defined ditch that runs through the woods, and then it carries through here and then ties into the stream right there. That's the existing drainage path. So all of this parcel here drains this direction and eventually then goes through the trees here in this channel and then across the existing driveway and out to the stream there. That's where the drainage currently goes, and it has the capacity and is a defined drainage way. You know, there are other, you know, push comes to shove, you know, we can come out, you know, and run up. It just is, you know, again, you know, part of the questions that I have, you know, in regard to, you know, you're saying this does not have an easement. You're correct. That is the natural drainage way, but there isn't an easement. This whole stream that it ties into, there's no easement there either. So,
Is that a legal
but that
drain?
is
Is
the,
that a legal
no,
drain?
That is not a legal drain. There is no existing easement there. It's just a natural. Again, these are the natural drainage ways. And you know, typically, if it did not have capacity, if that channel, you know, was not sized or did not have the capacity to take the flow, I wouldn't necessarily argue,
Right.
you know, with you. But this does have, you know, I've got pictures that are actually attached at the end of the slide that kind of show that drainage way. This is looking north. You can see there's, through that wooded area, you know, there's this channel that runs through there. It is called out as a wetland as well. There's that channel area we had a wetland study done in that channel. And then this is looking north. This is then the property to the north.
So what about?
What you can see, again, it's got a very well-defined channel. When we put our detention facilities, we put our lakes in, we're going to reduce the discharge considerably. It will be well below what currently runs off the property with our reductions with the lake facility. So, and then that's still looking north, but on the other side of his driveway. So the culvert pipe underneath his driveway is sized appropriately. Well, you know, our flows will stay below the capacity of that culvert.
Do you have a picture of where your property or the proposed property meets the adjoiner's property? Because that to me is looking north, correct?
Yes.
So we're not in your property, looking from your property all the way to the northern property, right?
The first picture that was wooded, I was standing close to the property line, our north property line, and then taking a shot to the south. Yeah, so this is I'm standing close, not exactly on the property line, but I'm standing close to the property line there, looking south onto our parcel. So that's the channel on our property. Then the next picture is the channel close to the property line again. So I'm standing close to the property line there, looking to the north.
So all your ponds are channeled to that area.
Only the ponds on the north portion of the property. So I'm sorry, if you want to go back to my concept plan, the colored rendering.
Put those two side by side.
Yes. So this lake connected north half this way. Lake will be significantly reduced.
You said that 30% of the PUD was
Common area, open space,
common area?
yes.
Okay, not, how much of that percentage is the retention ponds? Is that a high number of retention ponds for a PUD?
Yeah, I've got more lakes here than what you would typically see, in a larger water area than what you would normally see, as just amenity features and the purpose of continuing to improve the drainage in the
So
area.
it's specifically because you needed them for the drainage? I mean, it's not,
I could reduce the lake sizes if I wanted to, and still meet the ordinance and the discharge rates. But with the number of lakes and so on that we have shown on here, we should be able to go below the ordinance requirements and reduce the discharge even further.
Okay, thank you.
And again, that's further, we
That's
haven't.
not now, I understand. Well, that's later when we get into the
Yeah,
design.
we haven't got into the final design
I
yet,
just-
but that concept is, as you mentioned, so, that is still the concept, is this is a well-defined, natural drainage way where everything currently goes to. I mean, if it did not have capacity, I wouldn't necessarily argue, but it does have, our release rates will be well contained within the existing channel that's there.
You understand my concern, though.
I do. I do.
The reason I'm so concerned is that we have an issue like this, and I'm the one dealing with it.
Yes.
And the reality is if we can take it to another place and wipe that problem away, we should do it.
Yeah,
That's my standpoint.
Yeah, the only issue though with that, so if I get an easement or whatever, here, it's still going to something that currently does not have an easement.
Understood that, but it's a
So-
much better outfall, in my opinion. And when you say adequate outfall, there's not any exact science to that. Bed and bank is usually my term that I use. The pictures that you show me there are a bed and bank, however, they're narrow. I don't know, we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Yes.
I just want to make
Correct.
that noted that I have some concern.
And we did talk about that previously as well.
Yeah.
May I ask Barry a question? Is that, when you talk about the rezoning, so if it stays single-family residential, I mean, it probably can't do that for very long.
So right now, this property is in the county.
Okay,
Okay, they petitioned to annex,
okay,
and
Yes.
in the county, it's residential. That's
yes,
the hardest part for me, because the county's deemed this residential, but they're not in the incorporated areas of the town. Their concern is not the town. Their concern is the county area. So I just question, I know I've talked to about everybody I know, I can think of, is, we need to grow smart, and I'm not saying this is not a good plan. I'm not saying this is not good for the town. Location-wise, I struggle, simply because we don't have a lot of commercial space. So
so,
I love the development in general, except for two things. Not sure about the zoning and that outfall. So
Yeah. We've
That's
discussed
really
the
my-
outfall. I guess the other discussion is on the use.
zoning's a little more fundamental.
Yeah.
We do a lot of development around the city, and, as far as discussions on this parcel, you may be waiting a long time. If you're looking for a commercial use
Yeah.
at this location, you are potentially going to be sitting on, or the owners are going to be sitting on that property for quite some time before this becomes
and the town's
a
not going to
feasible.
generate any tax revenue. from it.
Correct. And then you're going to
you can go down
minimize.
East Main Street and you can find commercial, then residential, commercial and
Correct.
then residential. But
Correct.
the reason that's like that is because in the past, we typically didn't plan, for this.
Right, and
You know, we
there's no
thought we-
question, the pattern is very scattered out
Yeah.
here. But when you really think about what makes a good commercial development, and, it's usually key intersections of thoroughfare streets, and, we're offset from folks in the, maybe Delaware, Maine, you've got a church, which often transitions to
Yep.
well, so we're a little bit off the hard corner, which would make it pretty difficult. Plus, 60 acres, pretty big chunk
Yeah.
for commercial use. Retail's never gonna be what it was, and it's sure not gonna go this far up highway.
And that's kind of what I, back and forth thinking.
It is
Is commercial
about-
really going to
get
go
it.
that far off East Main Street? If it does, it's going to be a long time from now. And that's what I feel like we need to look at is appropriate. We are looking at the subdivision as a whole, but really what we're looking at here is we're adopting an ordinance that
Correct.
changes the zoning into the town. So,
Yes.
But hopefully it will be still a good fiscal impact to the town for the resident, for the residential use and the value of the home and so on. I know you're still working on that fiscal impact study, but
Yeah.
Like we said, with the infrastructure that's already in place, you just don't have to extend services that aren't just
yes,
there.
it's not
which
going
is-
to impact you on a lot of road improvements for cost for roads. It's not going to impact your utility systems because we got sanitary, we've got water available at the site. The value of these homes will single family, we expect the average, in the 280 to 300 range. And then the duplex is still to average close to 250 or so. So that's going to give a good revenue return for the town.
And the sewer department has told you we have adequate
Yes, they have.
capacity?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, water and sewer both has adequate capacity for this location. Yeah.
If you don't have enough water capacity there, there's something wrong.
We drove right beside your creek and didn't find no water, Tommy. We were 40 feet away from White Lick and it's all over the place.
Yeah,
But where,
in this day and age,
excuse me,
with the events of last year and going on yet this year, I wouldn't want to be sitting on a piece of property that was commercial.
Neither do we, sir.
And I understand where Barry's coming from. The commercial property right now along East Main Street, there's got houses sitting on it. I mean, ideally for commercial, but anyway.
The office and retail is going to change from this point, from the pandemic and on. That market is changing.
Yep.
Yeah, it's going to be really hard to predict.
It is
It's
very hard to
gonna be
predict
impossible.
today on how much office space will be needed, who will be working from home.
Yep.
Retail is going to change, but the demand for housing is very strong right now, so.
could you show me, I'm sorry.
Lisa? What's the density on R2? 4?
Per acre. Yep.
This is 2.8.
2.8.
Could you show me, please, where the easement is on the east side for the trees that we're going to be, how many of those trees on the tree line are going to stay?
Yeah, I'm sorry, it's not, you can't read it, but there's the 10-foot tree preservation easement there and another note there. So this whole property line is what's wooded. So that's what we were going to, that we're setting the easement up to protect that row of trees here. As you can see, there is also a natural, where the parcel, there's two different owners here, and that's the parcel line. So we're the way that we've laid out the plan, we're also preserving that row of trees.
Okay, so
But the
all those-
easement that we've defined is here for this property line.
So all those trees in the tree line, or most of the trees stay? I mean,
If it's, the trees within that 10-foot stretch would be maintained.
okay,
Same way on the south.
There's really no, I mean, there's some
But
sporadic.
There's going to be a buffer area.
Yeah, there's some sporadic trees down here, but there's not a constant tree row there. We have set up on this plan like a 10-foot common area there to help with existing residences along Main Street.
so does that cut those lots in the back by like 10, like 5 feet? I mean, do you have to make an adjustment for the easement?
No, for here, for this one, or you're talking about the tree preservation here?
Yes, I'm sorry, yes.
Yes, so it'll be a 10-foot natural area that will not be, that would attempt not to disturb.
Part of the setback.
It'll be
anyway.
part of the
Part
lot,
of
you
the
just
rear
can't
building
touch
line.
it. There'll
Okay.
just be a covenant that you can't.
And then, so our drainage and all the other improvements would get pulled further away from the property line. So
Okay.
before, we'll still have to get a rear yard swale and drainage improvements in that rear, but we'll pull 10 feet off the property line and then start any drainage improvements that we need to do.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
No, sir.
No? Okay. Since this is a public hearing, I will open it up for public comments. If you wish to speak, please come up to the microphone and give your name and address and talk about what you want to talk about.
My name is Cheryl Crono, and I'm representing the Danville Friends Church. The north line of our property there has a hill that goes down. When our church was built, the builder took off all our topsoil and left us sitting about 3 feet lower than the single-family dwellings. And our membership is very concerned about drainage on that area. And I know there's the stream, and I show a culvert north and one on 36. I don't show the one on 200 where you were saying goes over into the 4-H fairground. Now that might have been put in when we did the sewer and the water and everything. That's a very good possibility. But I'd like to be able to clarify that, and will there be any landscaping or anything between the backs of those properties and the church property? We do have trees along our north property line.
Can you address her question, sir? Okay. I think I know the answer, but I'll let you tell her. Okay. Huh? Well, also on your lots, there won't be any runoff off of your lots onto the church, right?
Will not, no. So if you look at this.
Richard, there's a pointer. Could you step at the microphone and just point out on there?
Right. So I apologize that this plan doesn't necessarily show all our storm improvements, but we'll have storm lines that will come down, pick up drainage in the street, pick up the rear yard swales so that we, contain all of our drainage within our property. And anything that drains onto us from the church, we would also collect and, take to our lake features. Landscaping wise, we currently don't have anything planned here. We'll try again to work with any trees along the property line we want to maintain as well, because it's a benefit to our property owners as much as it is to them.
Does that answer your question? Okay. Come up now.
That's the one that they buried going into the fairground property.
Kelly Pike, 2232 East Main. Kelly, Salley, P.I. 2232 East Main. We also are concerned about drainage and whether any of the structures and streets will affect our wells. There are 4 properties. We border the south side of the property. We're a quarter mile from 200 East, our particular houses. There are 4 properties in a row that are not annexed into town. We have well and septic tank. I don't know much about drainage, but when I stand in our backyard and look north towards the field, it looks like the field is higher than our property. I don't know, we've been there 49 years and things, have changed a lot over the years. So, number one, we're concerned about if they out according to a survey, if it's possible that we will get some runoff under our
Do
property.
you get runoff from it now?
No. Not that I'm aware
Saying
of.
you won't then either. You
The-
won't after they get done either.
Okay.
They can't.
Oh, they're not allowed to
No.
impact us. Okay.
Aren't you gonna put a swale in there, away from the property line? Yeah, yeah.
Oh, you will? Okay. So is that gonna tear up some of the buffer we've got along there? Okay. Okay, well, that eases my mind a lot. Also, do I understand that the 10-foot buffer will be part of the people's property?
Is it common area?
Oh, a common area, okay. And we really do appreciate Mr. Henderson's generosity in leaving that there. You realize after living for 49 years surrounded by cornfield, there's a lot going on right now that takes some adjustment. The other thing is, will any of what's going on drainage-wise or water-wise affect the quality of our, not the quality, the quantity of our wells?
That's a hard question to answer. But there won't be any more wells dug.
Oh, I understand.
That comes off of town water, so it
Right.
shouldn't impact groundwater negatively. Water works in mysterious ways when it's below the grade, but we can't see those. So the reality is it should not impact your well water. But there is no guarantee that your well's going to dry up the day they dig, and you're going to think that it was them, and it may not necessarily be. So I just want to point that out, that typically that doesn't happen unless you drill a new well. An example we have firsthand of is we drilled a new well down by the park, and it dried out somebody's private well, and we had to supply them with town water. So it's one of those things where you don't know everything, but the engineers have planned and worked really hard on this, and I think the saving grace is there's not going to be any wells drilled impacting your groundwater.
So you don't think the residences and the paved streets would affect how the water soaks into the ground to feed our wells?
If you don't have standing water now, you're only going to take in the water on the surface that you take in now. So there shouldn't be any less water getting on your property, and they're not taking it away necessarily. And I would have to look at your property to see where it drains to. I think my only concern, if I were you, would be is if you have a perimeter drain on your septic field, where does that go? And probably as old as that house is it probably goes to a clay tile.
It does?
That's goes into a farm field.
Yes?
That's going to be the impact.
And
If
it
we
drains
find those
south.
clay tiles, we have to tie them in by law. We cannot block those off. They have to go into the storm system in some way or another, unless we find out if it's sanitary sewer. If it's sewage, we won't take it. If it's groundwater, it will go into the storm system that they build.
Well, the tiles drain south, and then we have a varied sized drainage ditch in the right-of-way on the south side of our properties.
And that should remain as long as it's on your property. That's going to be the hard part is a lot of times people think their property's here, and then when they go survey, it actually is not there. But I have found typically that the fences are pretty good indicators of where property lines are, in my experience, but they can be off. So, like they said, they're only going to remove what's necessary. They're going to stay out of that 10-foot area. Whatever's outside of that is fair game to accomplish proper drainage and grading of their lots.
Okay, I understand what you're saying. I just wanted to share some concerns that we have. We have weathered several droughts in summer over the years. We're very conservative with our water anyway, but, doing things like putting a bucket in the sink when we wash our hands to collect the water and then go outside and,
If you have water problems now with your well, the chances are you're going to have them in the future.
we never have. We
Okay.
have an 80-foot deep well.
Okay.
So we have never gone dry. But, in the drought, it's been a little bit of a concern, but we never have had any problems.
Okay.
So, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
My name's Larry Elliott, 2176 East Main Street. I live one house from Shelley and Michael. He was talking about the trees. There's two trees that's right, they may be split right down where the line is. But you had in mind, two big maple trees, and they're big. I know we have before we moved there, somebody had a carport light, and we're probably 6 inches from the line, and these trees go right through it. And I got one more question. My daughter works for Nikki Lawson, which I know you know Nikki. All the properties that's along Old 36, if you sell it, they're going to rezone it business. Because my daughter has told me that. I don't know whether you know that. I don't know that would affect anything of yours, but all those little houses there will be, that you won't sell it as residential, it'll be business. That's, I don't know.
Anybody else? Okay, one more. Here.
What's up here? My name is Jeff, and my wife's name's Shelley Fuhrer, and we own two properties, one at 345 North County Road 200 East, and I also have a business at 407 North County Road 200 East. We are north of this development, and we own, in commercial property taxes we pay, 52 acres. So we own a floor covering store, so this is kind of a split line for me, to be quite honest with you. I like these guys because I want them to have houses, we put flooring in homes and things of that nature. But since this is just a zoning meeting, let's talk about traffic patterns that he has talked about. All the traffic that you have from the north, Tri-West, Lewiston area and all that, they're always going to Walmart. I've lived at that property for over 52 years, so I've got a little history on this particular road and this, what's going on up and down the road. So we used to farm the property when Wiggums owned the fairgrounds. And I know that it was owned by a gentleman in Texas, but we farmed all that property, and my family has farmed the 20 acres there where the red homes are for the past 20, 25 years in some form. So I got a pretty good idea what's going on and what's happening in this particular area. And so with that being said, I know that on 10th Street, there's 400 and some plus homes that are going to be developed there in the next 2 to 3 years. And his traffic pattern will definitely increase more than 5% that he's predicted. So when he shows you the A's for this and an A for that, I'm not so sure that they've anticipated all the homes that are going to be north on 200E that are going to come down to, that are north of 10th Street, that all that traffic is going to come down 200E eventually. I got a couple other things here. My other thing I was going to say is that when we're in our business, the airport, is a very key thing for this town if you really want it to grow. If you really want to have some big businesses in here, don't stifle the airport. And the airport runway takeoff and the pattern going west is directly over the subdivision that you're getting ready to put in. I personally don't think it's a good idea to have 100 and some odd, 200 people calling you and saying, hey, listen, we got all these planes going over our homes. Can you do something different? We only sell avgas at the airport now. There's an 8-year waiting list for aircraft hangars. 8 years. If you're trying to do something in the airport to expand that, you get much bigger tax base than you ever will in this operation. So my point is that if the airport ever put in jet fuel, there would be enormous amounts of sound that I don't think would be a good idea. I mean, I think they've done a great job with the development. Don't get me wrong. I like it. I think it's good, but I think there's a lot of drawbacks as the town thinks about growing. Now, you mentioned that, we're not going to have any commercial business for quite a while. Well, that's really false because since I own that 52 acres of commercial property, I've already had in the past couple of years, due to the pandemic, to be able to do other types of adventures with that land other than residential. So my point is that I own a business. We do a lot of internet, selling flooring online on the internet. We push out about 1.5 semis right now, and we're going to definitely increase. So if we increase, then we're going to put our buildings on back there. So how will our business expansion affect them? Because we're already zoned, we're in the town of Danville, we're already zoned commercial. I've already got everything set up and ready to go. Their property that they have, the 20 acres, I know you want to say, oh, well, we're going to put it in these 2 ponds. Everything that they've said, they have to go across my property to drain that water. Everything in the back, all that land, all the roof lines, all the roads will all go to my property. So it will definitely have a drainage impact if you decide to go forward. And I'd definitely like to talk about that if that goes to that point. So I think I've covered most of my points. Oh, if you don't think it's noisy now, the Lift Academy runs planes all day long. And as soon as this pandemic gets over, touch and goes is what we like to do. And it's right over Beasley's, it's right over our property. They do it all day long. Nice sunny day, you'll hear them all day. That's really all I have to say. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, at this time, I will close the public hearing portion of the meeting. Okay, guys, anybody have any questions? And lady? And you too, Sue.
Sue, do you have any questions?
She's still there?
I do have one, and I know it would be more of a site plan issue if this were to proceed. I know that your traffic study didn't call for a blister of any kind at the entrances. Would that be something that you would consider just as far as future growth along 200 there? to, to kind of forestall?
Yes,
that?
we can look at that.
And again, I know that's, I'm kind of putting the cart before the horse, but.
Yeah, the only thing I would want to, as long as there's right of way there, for it to accommodate it, we would look at it, yes. And I don't know this 100% for sure, but I believe traffic engineering also probably was, I think they were aware of Arbor's community when they did our study. So I would hope, I believe that they're smart enough, since they do a lot of work for the town, to know what growth there is and what projects there are. So they should have accommodated that in their report and their calculations for traffic in that intersection.
I was hoping that Chet would be here tonight, because I had it. I know he said he did this on the 7th of January.
I don't remember exactly when they had their
I believe that's what his study said.
markers out there for
That's when he did
counts,
it.
but
I believe Chet is in the audience.
Oh, he is here.
didn't know he came in.
Chet, maybe you
I'll
could
quit
answer.
talking bad about you now.
I was dozing back there. Did you have a question?
No, I
about the-
read that study today, and it's interesting. I had to figure out some of the abbreviations, but I figured most of them out. But maybe you can explain to all of us in a short synopsis of how you came to those figures. You did that, you did it in one day?
We
Or a
we
week?
collect traffic in hundreds of locations around Indiana. And we pick what we call a typical day, which is a typical weekday. So we avoid weekends, we avoid Fridays, we avoid Mondays usually. And what we've been doing since COVID, we keep track of national statistics. So, and even locally, there's adjustment factors we can apply because we're not quite at normal traffic levels yet. So we collect traffic data, we look at the peak hour, which is the controlling factor, the AM peak, PM peak, make COVID adjustments. Then we apply background growth for what we know about the area to account for other developments in the area. And then we add traffic for this development. And in this case, we looked at the two driveways, and we looked at the intersection to the north and to the south. And they all four operated very well from our perspective, which is a AB rating, and this goes A, B, C, D, E, F. NDOT accepts, just to put it in perspective, levels A, B, C, D before they consider improvements. And we're at the AB range. So even if we were off by a factor of 2 for background growth, we'd still be probably ABC range for the locations we looked at.
Did you take into consideration the new 395 homes that's supposed to be built just west on 10th Street? Was that factored in?
That's factored into background growth.
Okay.
And I might say residential development is one of your least generators of traffic, as you probably would expect. By far, as compared to commercial development or retail, anything else on that size acreage, the traffic generated would be 2 to 10 times as much. So and I live in Danville, so from a traffic engineering perspective, of course I'm biased, but that's a low impact use of that property.
So Chet, when you happen to be out there, one of the other things that we need to take into consideration is how much more use that the fairgrounds is getting. I don't know how to ask this question, but was there anything going on at the fair? Because I noticed that they continually to grow and try to expand their operation,
Right.
and I know that'll have an impact directly at that entrance.
It does.
So I don't know how that plays into this whole Can you explain to us how that may be taken into account?
Yeah, we've worked with Steve Patterson on several special requests. And the things like the fairgrounds where it's intermittent, it's like when a football game lets out.
Burst.
You accept traffic problems for a period of time. You don't design for a once in a month event. You just
Okay.
can't afford to do that. So to answer your question, we didn't design it to accommodate specific events at the fairgrounds, big events, but the normal, what we call typical traffic is accommodated. And the way these driveways are aligned, they are offset with the driveways on the west side of 200, which is good in the direction they're offset because the left turns for the driveways don't overlap.
Yeah, if they're reversed, it'd be a problem. Right.
Yeah. So.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody have any questions?
Lisa, I have a quick question. This is currently in the county, it's zoned residential.
That's correct.
And what would the density be if this were to fail?
It's zoned RB in the county. So you're asking what is the density for the county?
Yeah, approximately, if you know. I'm just kind of throwing
It's
it out
probably
there.
pretty close to what our R2 is.
Okay.
It's a medium density, what they call medium density in the county.
Okay.
So I would say it's probably pretty close.
And that's the current zoning there now?
Yes.
Correct? Thanks.
Anybody else? Okay. So it's our duty to either forward this on to the town council in a favorable or unfavorable recommendation, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And this does go before the council on March the 3rd.
Okay,
That is the first Wednesday of the month.
all right. Okay. I would entertain a motion then. What's your wishes?
Mr. President, I move we send a favorable recommendation for rezoning request with the commitments that are outlined in the letter from Mr. Henderson, his staff, dated February 8th, 2021.
We, taking the 42.
Yeah, with the additional commitment with the 0.44 vinyl thickness.
Okay. We have a motion with that one change on that, off of that letter. Do I hear a second?
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Barry?
Mr. Gerald.
Aye.
Mr. Harvey.
Aye.
Mr. Thompson.
Aye.
Ms. Howard.
Aye.
I vote aye as well.
Motion carried. Oh,
Ms. Rempert.
did she vote?
Ms. Rempert,
Probably fell asleep.
did you vote?
I did not hear the motion.
Okay.
Garbled.
Do you want to repeat that motion, Adam, or do you want me to? Okay, the
Whatever you
motion was
prefer.
made to send a favorable recommendation to the council, subject to the email addressing the staff comments dated February 8, and the additional change of the vinyl thickness to be 0.44 instead of 0.42.
Okay. I will vote yes.
Thank you.
She votes yes. Motion carried 6-0. Anything to report? Anything else?
Let's see. We are
Okay. That's the one over here, oh, east.
Yeah.
Okay.
That won't come back before you. And everything. I received an application for
Oh, Christian Church.
right.
Okay.
We're in the process of moving several phases. Phase of Camden, phases. So there's going to be quite a bit coming up.
When will that church property come through? Will that be next month, or will that be later on? March?
It'll be March the 8th.
I'd have to recuse myself on that one again.
Okay.
Anyway,
Yeah.
but, I won't be here.
Yes, and just so you know, Greg Van Leer would have been in this meeting on a phone call, but we were in the meeting and he sent me a text and I did not see it until we were halfway through.
That's what I thought.
So I sent my
Carrie.
apologies and offered to use Malin's phone, and he
I'll go by
said,
Terry anytime.
too far.
Okay.
So I apologize for that.
No, it's not, do not be.
Working on the comp plan, you know, we're getting that started, and we're getting ready to do stakeholder meetings with a whole list of people.
I watch Jeopardy every night.
Trying to think of anything else.
You
You know of anything new?
A BZA meeting next month?
We do not. We will have one,
And now I'm gonna write down everybody's
yes, we
name.
will have, because I'm gonna bring a sign for
Yeah,
the
we don't have
town.
one this month yet.
We don't have one this month, but we will in March.
Okay.
I
Yep.
honestly, yeah, I can't
I'd
remember
entertain a
anybody's name
motion to
anymore, so.
adjourn.
So moved.
Motion and a second, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Done.